When we first started, when Sky first started here, there was no Ministry of Food Security at the time. You know, this concept of food security, of food sustainability, we've been talking about it for a long time. But when it comes to creating the institutions, when it comes to creating the players that need to be in place to help, that's been a recent change. And we're very grateful that we're in a region that responded incredibly fast to that. But that's not a one-way conversation. As Mark said, the government is incredibly willing to help because we're in an area of greatest need and we're in an area of greatest opportunity. But then the government asks you, how can we help? And that's where the conversation has to become two ways. Because even us, as doing it for the first time on the ground, it's a learning experience for us. It's a learning experience for the retailers that we work with, giving them a value proposition that they haven't seen before. It's a learning experience for the consumer, the person who's actually purchasing the produce. So that kind of widespread education, it has to be holistic and then driven as a conversation if we're supposed to see change. And I think that's what we're very grateful for in this region and in the UAE, is that these kind of conversations, they don't happen in a vacuum. We have food security councils, we have sessions where we sit, where we talk with industry participants, where our problems and our issues are heard, but then also our proposed solutions. And those proposed solutions are not necessarily something that might have worked here before, or might have been done here before. It's something we might have seen elsewhere being done successfully, and we try it out. It's a very agile ecosystem because the problem is so pressing. And I think that's the crux of the matter. If the problem wasn't so massive, if it wasn't something that we don't see on a daily basis, and something that unfortunately COVID brought into highlight, where a lot of us were speaking into a smaller room, that room has expanded dramatically over the last 2 years. And that's provided an opportunity for us to take those conversations, to take that support, and turn it into execution and action.
Thank you very much. Abdulaziz, how do you look at your leadership within your country and the role that you can play within your ecosystem to influence the leaders of the country? We can meet them tomorrow. I hope you will join us so we can all meet, let's say, the governmental people here tomorrow at the Food for Future Summit. Can you give us...
Sure, there's a few different ways that I would understand the terminology leader. So I think first and foremost we have to understand what Sky and Mark were really talking about. That's long-term change. That's not something that's going to happen in the next 2 to 5 years. And the industry that we're in, we're not looking at any possibility of short-term change. We're looking at long-term sustainable change. And with that comes the cultivation of leadership. And the cultivation of leadership means bringing together a subset of minds that looks at agriculture, that looks at what's possible in a new way. Today you ask most children or most of the youth, where does food come from here in the UAE? And the answer is most likely going to be the supermarket. It's not going to be a farm. It's not going to be an agriculture producing area because they have no concept of that. They have no exposure to that. And so for me, leadership really begins there. One of the things that we've done at our company, Madar, is we created our own educational program called Sustainable Futures. And that's now going into over 60 schools where children are actually being able to farm hands-on, with their hands, learn what's possible. Now, the takeaway from that is not so much about imparting a particular set of skills, but actually inspiring them to understand that it's possible. Because let's face it, 10 years ago, even the people in this room, we weren't going to have this kind of conversation. We weren't looking at the realm of possibility that we're looking at today. And I would juxtapose that then with the leaders of the government here. The leaders are very willing. The leaders are supportive. And if you look at Vision 2030, if you look at Vision 2071 and the UAE, food sustainability, food self-sufficiency, food wastage, those are all top of mind. But the roadmap to getting there, that is not a clear roadmap. And that's a roadmap that not only do we have to learn from our own experiences on the ground and channel that upwards, but learn from our partners abroad. I mean, we've learned from people in Holland things that may seem basic to you, but are absolutely revolutionary to us because we haven't had to face these kind of issues. And the final thing that I would say around leadership is also leadership in terms of setting examples. Today, if you look at the region, I would say that I'm sad that I don't see more operators. You know, I see Sky regularly in the same talks. Mark I've seen before. And I love to see them. I'd love to see you more, but I'd love to see more people. And so that's the other part of leadership is we have to cultivate a new generation of business leaders as well. And being able to provide a supportive ecosystem for them so that they can inspire on both sides, on both the youth side and on the government side. And quite frankly, when it comes to the company, the team does all the work, I take the credit, so it's something I always say, it's a great conversation. But the role is very much, look, these are the problems you're facing. What can I do or what can we do in order to best position you to overcome it? It really is as simple as that, no matter what form of leadership you're discussing. The word that comes to my mind is balance. Everything we've talked about has been quite in extremes. It's been extreme on the inspiration side or extreme on the challenge side. Let's recognize nothing we're going to be doing is easy. Yes, it's going to take 50 million or X million, or it's going to take X amount of years of challenge, but who cannot say that about any industry in the world, right? Well, what's exciting about our industry is the social impact that we can have. What's exciting about our industry is how many lives it can actually touch. What's exciting about our industry is it meets an everyday daily need. Now, that also has to come with balance. That extreme value that we bring has to come with balance. And to just reiterate on Sky's point, it's a balance of give and take between, I think, again, our Dutch partners and our tech partners and our IP partners and the people we learn from, and being able to localize on the ground. I think what's changed from, say, 20, 30 years ago is the competitive landscape has changed so dramatically. A lot of governments have leapfrogged in terms of regulation, but also left behind the key agricultural sector because that really hasn't been disrupted for quite a long time. And so being able to strike the right balance between innovation in the right way, being able to deliver the knowledge in the right way, but in the end, all we want to do is execute. I think that's the message that I want to leave.